We're here for a pre-recorded talk from Phil Withnall about parental controls in GNOME 47.
Hello. This talk is going to be about parental controls and digital wellbeing and what's happened on them in the GNOME 47 cycle so far. The two are quite closely linked, and as you'll see, there's actually been more work on the digital wellbeing side this cycle than there has been on parental controls. That work will form the foundation for later parental controls work. The plan for Philanthropies was to implement these three things: health breaks, session time limits and screen time, and bedtime. And it's funded by a grant from Daily Philanthropies to the GNOME Foundation. These three things are useful for both digital wellbeing and for parental controls. For digital wellbeing, we want to provide tools to help you keep yourself well and happy on the computer. And for parental controls, we want to provide tools to help you help your children or dependents keep well and happy on the computer. But those tools in both instances are quite similar. So firstly, health breaks or break reminders. These will function the same for both parents and for children. Their purpose is to periodically remind you to take a break from the screen and to get you to move your body around and to give your eyes a rest. There are various apps which can do this already. They've been around for quite a long time, but by having an implementation in GNOME Shell directly, we can provide tighter integration with the desktop and better performance. So it means we can use the shell's internal activity notifications for seeing when your mouse moves, when you're idle or active. So no inter-process communication is needed to detect the user being idle or being active or switching between the two. And it means we can display custom overlays or to desaturate the screen to hint to the user that it's time to take a break, whereas a standalone app can only really display notifications. It can't do anything more involved than that. The design done by Alan Day gives two kinds of breaks: eyesight breaks, which are short and frequent, and movement breaks, which are long and infrequent. The idea is that you look away from the screen during an eyesight break and you step away from the computer during a movement break. So here is the design for the full set of digital wellbeing features. It's designed for within GNOME Control Center. What will land in GNOME 47 will hopefully, or likely, be a subset of the options you see here. So going through it, at the top we have a graph of the amount of time you've spent on the computer in the last 7 days, and you can go back to previous weeks as well, with the idea that this can inform you of the amount of screen time you've spent and therefore the limits you might want to impose on yourself for your screen time limit. And going through to the bottom half of the design, just scrolling down because it won't fit on one slide, you can see there's options for bedtime scheduling, for how you're notified of things like screen time, so whether you want to grade the screen or not, and for your eyesight and movement breaks, and a schedule for how frequent and long you want those to be. Frustratingly, for a presentation, there's fairly little to show of break reminders or health breaks. Essentially, they pop up some different notifications like these two at different times and then give you the option to take, delay or skip the break. A lot of the implementation complexity comes from tracking your idle or active state and working out when breaks are upcoming and what kind of break is upcoming, whether it's eyesight or movement, and whether you've actually been consistently using the computer long enough to warrant one. So it doesn't make for good eye candy, but hopefully it should work quite well in practice. So this has been implemented. It's currently undergoing code review, but it'll hopefully land in time for GNOME 47. So that was health breaks. Now, secondly, we move on to session time limits or screen time. This is a feature which behaves similarly but not quite the same between digital wellbeing and parental controls. So for digital wellbeing, we want to provide hints that you've spent enough time on the computer in a day. That's kind of time for you to stop. But for parental controls, we want to provide a mandatory limit on the amount of time that a child can spend on the computer. In both cases, the user interface for it will be similar. So you get a notification when you've almost used up your time for the day, and then when you're out of time, you'll either get a desaturation of the screen and another notification for digital wellbeing, or you'll just get logged out if you're a child and it's parental controls that is imposing the limit. Implementation-wise, we need to know how long the user has spent logged in on any session, and we can get this information from systemd in the form of notifications about when the user's session state changes, but we then need to store that list of changes and that history over time. This can then be totaled up to give the current day's usage to see if you've hit your limit, and then it can be stored over the previous few days and weeks to give the day's usage, so we can draw a graph like in the design and help you work out sort of how much time you are actually spending on the computer. This gets a bit more complicated when you consider the session histories for digital wellbeing and parental controls act on different users. So in the former case, the session history is being stored for you, the current user, whereas in the latter case, for parental controls, it's being stored for a child user. And that child user may, if they have some technical know-how or find out how to on Google, they might try and tamper with the session history to get more time on the computer, and you can't allow that. So on top of that, even if a parent has set a screen time limit on a child, that child might also want to set their own digital wellbeing time limit, which would have to be less, but they might want to set it nonetheless. So these two things need to be treated slightly separately. So the design we have, technically, is that the session history for digital wellbeing is going to be stored by GNOME shell for the current user, so it'll all stay within one user's namespace. And this is implemented and awaiting review. And then the session history for parental controls will have to be stored by a separate daemon, which will allow the parent to query the data so they can see how much time the child has been spending on the computer, and it will allow the child user to feed into it, but not to tamper with it. And this is yet to be implemented. The implementation for the digital wellbeing side of it is here. And similarly, it's also undergoing code review, but it'll hopefully land in time for GNOME 47. And the parental control side of it is still in the design stages. Bedtime. The bedtime feature is what it sounds like. It's a reminder to stop using the computer and to go to bed at a certain wall clock time. And this is kind of, you can think of it sort of like screen time, but it's not limited to a number of hours of using the computer, it's just a time of day. Again, this is something which can be implemented for both digital wellbeing and for parental controls, and the parental controls version would be mandatory, whereas the digital wellbeing version would be a hint. GNOME already has a night light feature, which changes the screen colour as the sun sets, but the wellbeing or parental controls bedtime would be in addition to this. So far, the bedtime feature is still a design, it's not been implemented yet, but it should be fairly straightforward to implement once the session time limits and the screen time code is landed, because it'll have a lot of commonality, and the user interface for it will be fairly straightforward to implement on top of that. So that's where we are. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. Here are some links to various of the designs and the slide source in case you're interested.
Okay. Sorry, I kind of accidentally zipped through a couple of Philip's awesome slides, but hopefully we can. If you have any questions, I believe Philip is in the room, or he might not be actually. Let's see if I can find him. Let's see if he's on Matrix right now. Well, I guess before I grab Philip, does anyone have any questions for him? Okay, I'm going to see if he's online. Oh, there he is. Hi, Philip. Let me just close this.
He's not in the room yet. He's not in the room yet. He's entering.
Oh, I see.
Let's just give him a minute. Also, Cassidy sent this message on the track. So basically, probably Philip, even if
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he's in the room. He was saying that he might like to answer questions in the matrix chat, but he's here.
Yeah. Hi, Philip. So if you'd like to answer some questions from the room, I think they'll be audible in the feed. If you want to stand up, Adrian.
Hi. I don't know if you can hear me. Is any of this going to be reusing? He can't.
I think
We're muted.
he can.
Oh, you think he can? Okay. Well, is any of this going to be reusing malcontent, like the existing parental controls framework? Is that integrated in any way? Like, how do these two projects interact?
So
And maybe I'll just
Well, we
write.
can
I
probably-
put it right.
I put it in the channel. Yeah, just
Yeah.
put it in the channel.
yeah. Or what we can do is you can just go to the laptop here and then unmute.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, we have a lot of. uh, oh, yeah, he's muted. Why are you muted? I don't know. Philip answered in text that it will definitely reuse malcontent. We have another question asking if GNOME extensions can be used to add to a screen time. So, for instance, GS Connect could sync your phone screen time with your computer. Oh yeah, I see. We're having audio issues on both ends.
Also, for this lecture, you can unmute yourself when talking, just so we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So I'll unmute myself in Big Blue Button. But I wish I could hear you, Phil.
Can Phil hear you?
Can you hear me?
He's muted.
You're muted.
Not reacting.
Yeah. Dang, we should have tested this.
This might have been covered at the beginning and missed it, but the parental controls, do they integrate with the browser and use some sort of like lock list? Or is that not
Ooh.
covered at all?
I don't know the answer to that. Philip, do you? Yeah, I can just relay that into the chat here.
That it's based on them?
Well, that was my question. He says that it's going to reuse parts of the content, but here he was talking about screen time enforcement.
Okay. Right.
Let's see here.
Or is it muffled because it's using that microphone and we're just far away from it? Or
Oh, maybe. Oh yeah, what microphone is this using?
It should be coming through the TV if he's speaking.
Yeah.
He's
Unmuted. He's unmuted.
But he's saying he can hear us. We're just really muffled.
Okay. That's
Can you hear
interesting.
us on this mic, Phil?
Hmm.
You can just open the phone.
Yeah.
That's what I did today.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yep.
Okay, so,
Oh, sorry.
oh no, feedback loop.
So I use this microphone basically. You can mute that.
Yeah, this
Otherwise you
one?
can hear the phone.
All right.
And there, you can talk to me.
Hi. Oh, I see what you're doing.
Oh wow.
If, when he wants to speak, if he mutes us, and then when he's speaking, we'll mute ourselves.
Oh wow, that's a complicated.
Not
So,
through feedback loop.
or maybe he can just answer the questions in the chat. Probably it's kind of more.
Yeah, you know what? I think that might be the best thing. I can just, I'm sorry, I should have been relaying these answers. So, sorry, it's too bad we don't have a very good, haven't quite figured this out yet. But, sorry. I mean, yeah, all the Q&A here is in the GUADEC Track 2 matrix room. And yeah, so you had a question about the,
Like browser.
yeah, how relates to like, yeah,
That integrates.
yeah.
He responded that there's no integration.
Okay, there we go. Phil's answer is no integration.
He thought you were asking, can you use the web browser to remotely administer it? He said,
Oh, wow.
And I said,
Yeah, audio's not working.
can parental controls enforce website block lists? And he said, no, they can't. They can block the entire browser. And that's
Yeah. Yeah. And then yeah, Ken had a pretty awesome question about if he's aware of the recent law in France pertaining to computers sold needing to have parental controls out of the box. And Philip's answer is that we already comply with that in released versions of GNOME with the existing parental control stuff. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, the best thing to do, probably feel free to continue asking Philip questions on Matrix, and he's around, and it's smoother than me trying to relay things. But yeah, thanks, Phil, for your talk. That was really cool, and it's really great to see all this progress here.